Oh, please understand.
Say who you can say.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I am Beau Oliver, joined here today with Aaron the Nerd Soup Monkey, and we are back to review The Last of Us Episode 7, Left Behind, written by Neil Druckmann and directed by Lisa Johnson. Coming into this episode, based on the preview, we knew that it was going to incorporate some flashbacks, and we also assumed that present day would also be addressed. And I thought it was done pretty well. I mean, the themes are a bit obvious, but that's okay. It's all about how they play out, and I think the main relationship between Ellie and Riley was very touching and moving, sweet, romantic. It's an opportunity for these two kids who grew up under this military regime to experience some freedom. The freedom of being a child, of going to the mall. That's like a pastime of American childhood. Escape to the mall, go see a movie, fuck with people. Obviously, there's not a lot of people working there, so
yeah,
can't really cause a ruckus, but get a nice pretzel. I always love a nice mall pretzel.
Well, Annie Ann's is one of the fourth wonders of the mall for me. And that's not even including Hot Topic, Spencer's Gifts.
Little fountain with the fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, mall always had the
kids
fish
would throw
fountain.
coins in.
Right, yeah, poor fish.
Not good for the fish.
The good and bad of society pre-apocalypse. You know, it wasn't all
No, yeah, the
candy.
mall was a real reflection of society as a whole.
The survival of the fittest, truly.
Really, it is.
Yeah, they had that in Mean Girls, right? When they're all fighting at the mall. The watering hole. But good performances, definitely. It stood out. That's what stood out the most, similar to episode 3 with Bill and Frank, and I think that's an obvious comparison to draw there. But the new addition, Storm Reid as Riley, and it feels like this young actress has been popping up all over the place. I know she was in Euphoria, so she's got the HBO connection. But she was really great in this episode, and I think the best thing that she brought to her character was the maturity combined with the innocence. So she feels that FEDRA is kind of pushing her out. They relegate her to this shitty job, literally, and then she decides to join the Fireflies. So she feels like she has no one else to turn to, and I think that for Ellie, it was important for her to see the different ways or the different paths that you could take towards rediscovering that freedom that so many of these people have lost. But as I mentioned, the innocence of still being a kid, but having that maturity of being capable of fighting. So Storm Reid was excellent, and Bella Ramsey continues to kill it. I'm going to assume you were also a fan of their relationship here.
Yeah, no, I thought they were both great. This was obviously a DLC from the game, so it was something removed from the main story, but it was fun to go back and play after you finished the main story, because you had just that little bit more you can get into, and that backstory on Ellie and how she got bit, and kind of where she's coming from before we even meet her. That set up with her in the FEDRA camp, getting more insight into them. I like the way they presented FEDRA and their conversation regarding FEDRA versus the Fireflies, where it is a little mucky at times, right? Obviously, FEDRA, and we've seen it throughout the series, being this sort of authoritarian presence in the QZ zones. But when you look at the recruits and people like Ellie, it's kind of like just their only way out of basically living a subpar life. Like, for a lot of people, you can just say it's just a job or just a way they can actually make a difference or want to make a difference. But in reality, when you look at it from the outside looking in, it just looks like a complete shit show. And even with the Fireflies too, Ellie bringing up, you know, when she finds the bombs, like, you're going to use this on people like me and things of that nature. So from both sides, you know, and even when you look at Kansas City, when Riley is talking about how they want to liberate the QZ zones and make a better life for people within it, then you look at Kansas City and look how that turned out, where it basically was the same thing repeating itself again. They weren't Fireflies, but in essence, you can see how that same thing could potentially happen. So yeah, I enjoyed those conversations between them, going back and forth, getting better insights on that, and yeah, just seeing their relationship develop. Like you said, it is such a normal sort of young love, budding romance type story, taking the beats from something that you would see in a normal society, like going to the mall and having these little awkward moments and these crushes and everything. And the background just completely different when you look at it's a fucking zombie apocalypse, but you can still have these moments.
Yeah, you can even apply the idea of your friend moving away, or in this instance, your love interest.
Right.
Changing schools, parents got a new job. In this case, it's a bit more extreme. She's joining a rogue militia group.
Mm-hmm.
That's always fun.
That happened to me once.
But The game always did a good job of this as well, and I think in part 2 more so. These moments to just catch your breath in this incredibly chaotic world. And I think the way that the mall was set up was beautiful. It had that sort of 80s retro vibe. I guess malls did sort of in the early 2000s still look this way, because in our times they've certainly changed. They've become sort of depressingly minimalist. But this was a maximalist experience. As I mentioned, it is the pastime of the American childhood. And with FEDRA being a literal militarized nanny state, it's that freedom that comes with shedding adult supervision, where nobody's telling you what to do when you have to be home. You're just living off of pure childhood ecstasy, and I think that's what they experience in these moments. And just seeing Ellie's reactions to something like the escalator. It's the things that we take for granted, and there's been a lot of that with Ellie's character, like the first time she's in a car or when she sees a plane, she doesn't think about how it crashed, she thinks about how it was once in the air. So even though there's nobody here in this mall, she still can walk in the shoes of the people who came before her and get those same experiences. And for her, they hit her even harder because, as I've mentioned, it's the things that we took for granted, right? These simple things that are, to these two kids, are wonders of the world.
Yeah, and there's a couple like little call forwards or callbacks depending on the timeline or whatever, but her seeing the Mortal Kombat machine earlier in the season now just has a whole new meaning.
Right.
And how she associates that with her last night with Riley. Yeah, but I think it's just seeing Ellie get to be a kid in these moments. And obviously we've had a couple times like that during the show, but I think so far it really has just been... And obviously this doesn't really end too well either, but just having this little moment to sit back, even though you kind of, and they, pan the camera to the infected in the dark room, so you kind of get a sense that something bad is going to happen. But when you see them just be able to have fun and laugh and just have a good time just one night, it really does like just make you, it's good to see that for that character. I like even the beginning when she comes and sneaks into her room and they go on that little adventure. That was all really fun too. They find the bottle of whiskey. And I think everyone remembers like their first time with their friends drinking and pretending that you liked it.
Right, yeah. They're hitting all the checklists here.
Yeah.
Outside drinking in the cold. That was actually a scary moment. That shook me a little bit.
When the body fell through, yeah.
I thought the body was going to...
No, he was just mad hungover.
No, yeah, he was still alive, yeah. Just...
Water!
Need some McDonald's breakfast or some shit.
Yeah. And also like going back to the whole Firefly and FEDRA thing and having Riley feel like she's wanted and she's accepted in this group. I mean, really too, like take a step back. She also is, 17, very young. Just, I feel like obviously FEDRA's doing the same exact thing, but just how these different organizations are trying to maybe not manipulate in some circumstances, but try to grab these young, impressionable people and kind of mold them to fit what they want and what they believe is the right way to go about it. And that's one thing, too, from game to show, I think that's a little different, is the Fireflies are, I think, presented a little bit more complex in the game, or more like you're not sure if they're necessarily good or their intentions are pure. Here, I think they do allude to some of the things like with the bomb and how maybe some casualties are getting stuck in the middle of this war, but at the end of the day, you kind of get the sense that they are pushing towards a better future. Where in the game, I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah, and it's funny with FEDRA, I feel like they've scaled back some of the nasty stuff that FEDRA does, where even when she's having the conversation with Captain Kwong and he's looking out for her, telling her that she can have a career here, I can understand that the weight of command when you're operating an authoritarian military government is so overwhelming that, yeah, even good people can sort of get caught up in it.
Right.
But I think that they have diluted some of the nastiness, because there's also an emphasis in the original story of FEDRA is no longer working for a vaccine. They're just trying to maintain status quo. And Ellie says that in this episode, that, hey, at the very least, they're holding things together. But in the game, the Fireflies are very much looking for the vaccine. That is their end goal. And even though they are a bit more complex, a bit more gray, and they talk about it here, that they have these violent philosophies that sometimes that they're willing to go to those lengths, they're willing to meet FEDRA on that same playing field in order to achieve their goal of one day finding a vaccine. And I think that you made a point in our spoiler discussion that they need to emphasize why this is so important. And it does sometimes feel like the whole vaccine immunity thing is being lost in the story, which isn't that big of a deal. I think for most people, it's still in the back of their minds that that's the end goal. But I think from the perspective of the Fireflies, they haven't really mentioned that so much. I mean, with Marlene, sure, you have it. But as I've mentioned, drawing that dichotomy between what FEDRA wants to do and what the Fireflies want to do would make a lot of people more partial towards the Fireflies, I think, in my opinion. But here, they're very much trying to do they're bad, we're bad, they've got guns, we've got guns too. But it is sort of, you mentioned the word manipulation. I think you can call it what it is here. It feels like Riley was justifying her joining a gang, because that's usually what they say, right? It's just people to support you. Gives you that sort of camaraderie that you're missing in your life. And I think from Ellie's perspective, she thinks that they've got that. The two of them have enough of that already, just through their friendship and through their romance. So it was difficult. And with episode 3, we see a lifetime of Bill and Frank. And with Ellie and Riley, it's only one night, but it felt like a lifetime by the end of it. Especially the way they come to peace with their bite marks at the end, saying that this was all worth it just to enjoy these last few moments, no matter if it's 2 minutes or 2 days. We have this freedom in the here and now. So let's embrace it.
Yeah, and even going back to, I believe it was the same episode where Ellie sees the Mortal Kombat machine, she also sees the infected in the basement, right? So looking back on that, it's actually more interesting knowing that her last moments with Riley, they don't show it explicitly, but her turning into an infected. So it's like...
Yeah, in the game, she has to beat her with a bat, right?
I think so.
No, I'm just kidding.
Does she?
No, I don't know.
I don't remember.
I'm imagining they don't show it either. I never played it.
Because I know she killed the infected. There's a couple in the mall that she beat up.
Right.
But anyway. But now I'm just thinking back to when she sees the infected in the basement and she's like looking in its eyes and cutting it, just maybe seeing not only what she could have been, but what Riley turned into.
Right. Yeah, and even at the time, I thought that she was looking for any ounce of humanity before I kill this thing. Is anybody still in there? And that's something that Sam talked about too. Are you still inside when the monster takes over? So for her to have had experienced that with Riley, it's obviously traumatic. But I think in the back of her mind, she's thinking of her friend in that moment, that maybe Riley was still in there. And looks like, no, you do fully lose control. And that's a horrifying thing to contemplate as well in your final moments, right? To sit there and knowing that, what did they say, that they're going to lose their minds together?
Yeah.
And obviously, I don't think you would want to show something that disturbing. But I can only imagine what it was like for Ellie to realize, okay, nothing's happening to me. What the fuck? She's becoming a zombie. What do I do?
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
Do you like that they cut that?
I mean, you definitely could have shown it, but it almost feels like a repeat of what happened with Sam, right? Because she thinks that Sam, maybe there's a possibility he won't turn, and then taps him on the shoulder, he's a zombie. So you're sort of repeating it, and maybe it would have hit harder because this was... a relationship that had been established, that they've known each other prior, so the emotional connection there is a bit deeper. But I think you sort of got that same thing with Sam.
Maybe not that aspect of it, but just Ellie realizing that like she's just different.
Right.
Yeah, that could have been cool to her. Like, what the fuck is happening? Like, where do I go? What do I do? How do I present this to Marlene without getting a bullet in my head?
Yeah, because I think the acting, the fear that they've been able to pull out of these actors has been great. When she realizes that she's been bitten, her reaction is horrifying. And it's the same thing with Riley's character, where she's not as expressive. All life sort of leaves her eyes. But Ellie's in an absolute panic. And I was also very impressed with the way they took out that zombie. I think they're more formidable than Joel and Tess, these two together. Even Ellie looked over at her at the end and was like, hey, look at us. Who would have thought?
Joel doesn't get bit, though. So...
Yeah, test it, dumbass.
Yeah.
No, that is true. I was thinking about that watching this episode. I was like, I guess Joel's specialty is he's never been bitten.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
That's the whole thing you're trying
Good
to
skill
avoid.
to have here.
I don't know what I would do if I would just ride it out or just end it. I would definitely, if I knew Ellie was a thing, I'd be like, yeah, I'm probably built like her. Ain't no way I'm turning.
Well, that's the thing. I wonder if there was a moment where Riley saw Ellie wasn't turning, thinking, oh, look at this. We're immune buddies. Both of us.
Oh, no. She's probably like, you fucking bitch.
I fucking hate you.
When I turn, I'm going to rip you apart.
No, we're fine. We're buddies.
We're still friends.
You got to shiv me in the neck.
They had CDs in 2003. I'm not crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Why does she still have cassettes?
I'm pretty sure that was a thing, too. I remember having a Walkman.
Yeah, I had a Walkman, too, but it was a CD player.
Okay. No, I remember cassettes, like even cars had the cassette players in the mid-2000s, the older cars.
Yeah.
But I thought the best out of all the different wonders was, to me, the merry-go-round. I thought the way that was shot, real calm, real sweet, just watching them go round and round. And the tension, the romantic tension that they were building between the two of them, the unspeakable romance that they have, all comes to a head. And the classic photo booth, right? That's what young lovers are always doing. You get caught off guard with the first one, and then you do all the wacky faces, and it was super cute. When they embrace, get real close, and Riley doesn't pull away right away. So the awkwardness of it, the awkward romance of being that young and not knowing how to express your feelings, it was very cute. And for somebody like me, I don't always necessarily love that type of writing because I think it's difficult to write it without it coming off as sappy or melodramatic. But here, it fit these characters so well.
Yeah, no, I think it worked. It definitely did a good job of building that connection. And like you said, just the romantic tension between these two characters. I thought it built pretty well because, it's always, I think from Ellie's perspective, we're not used to seeing somebody, I guess, even when it's with adults or Joel, she's very confident in herself or she takes control of the situation, where here she's a little bit more, I wouldn't say timid, but Riley is from her perspective, is this sort of larger than life presence, like that she's trying to impress or try to figure out if she feels the same way about her. So she definitely takes this, not a backseat, but it's just a different way than we've seen Ellie so far in this series. And I appreciated the way they were able to frame that. And at the end of the day, they're both kids, right? So they both kind of have this little awkwardness to them or this nervousness when it comes to actually embracing each other in a way that's just more than friends. And seeing that all play out with the dancing and all that, I thought it worked. It all worked and tied together very well at the end there.
Right, yeah, and then cutting it in between Ellie trying to save Joel. Once again, it's very obvious to see what they're doing there, but she doesn't want to leave Joel behind because she wasn't able to save Riley. She wasn't able to save Sam, so she resolves to try and save Joel here, even though he does try and send her away. And then going back to Riley's decision to try and leave and join the Fireflies, you wonder if she didn't choose to stay back, if she didn't come and get Ellie and bring her to the mall and have this adventure, maybe both of these characters would have been alive. She would have been off with the Fireflies, Ellie would have been safe with FEDRA. Never would have known that she was immune, which is an important piece of information. But you wonder about those things. Was it the right decision to have those final moments with the love of your life? And I think those questions sort of arise, and that's always been the genius of the source material and now part of the genius of the show. What's the right decision to make? It was very powerful, especially the way they cut it back and forth, the desperation of Ellie looking for all the tools, yanking out the draws. And even Pedro Pascal, he's not even much of the episode, but the way he was reacting to the pain, sometimes I think in shows and movies, they don't react enough for me. That shit's gonna hurt. You've just been stabbed, you're bleeding out, somebody's poking you with a fucking needle. Yeah, express some pain there.
No, that makes me wince more than him actually getting stabbed, is seeing the stitch. Ugh.
Right, and not having anything to take to subdue the pain, right? Yeah. Just having to fucking eat it. Get that man a towel or something before he bites his tongue off. A little Pedro Pascal tongue wiggling around.
Most people, that's the dream.
That is true. Yeah, that was our dream a couple of cold opens ago. But as you mentioned with Riley's character, even though she's Ellie's Joel in these moments, she is still a kid, so she's unsure about certain things, and Ellie does convince her to stay. So it looks like at the end they were going to, or not to stay, but maybe to take Ellie with her, that they were going to figure something out. And then that adds another element of tragedy there because the zombie shows up. These two kids make it all that fucking noise. But it was also a very emotional scene when Riley first tells her what she's going to do, and Ellie has that reaction of storming off and then eventually coming back. So, as I mentioned, it's hard to know what the right thing to do is because you have this personal connection. But from Riley's perspective, what do you want to get out of your life, and what do you believe in? If she truly does believe in the Fireflies, you can understand her decision.
Maybe, it's not a huge criticism, but maybe they could have got more into Riley's, and maybe that was the point, too, because it seems like she's just reiterating a lot of stuff she was probably told by Marlene and the Fireflies to justify their actions.
Yeah, Nellie calls her out on that a bit.
Yeah, so maybe, and I think by the end they do a good job of being maybe Riley isn't so sure what she's doing here. And she doesn't know the severity of the situation. More just, they're both kind of, like they say in the show, regurgitating propaganda from their respective sides here. So
yeah, and I think for Riley, she's probably had a rebellious streak at this school. So her superiors probably thought, we're never going to convince this person to be a FEDRA officer. It's not that she isn't capable. It's that she just doesn't follow orders. And Ellie, at this point, is on the fence, where she's shown her intelligence and capability. But she does escape with Riley. She does break the rules and breaks curfew, so she's got a rebellious streak to her as well. So even the way the character evolved from her time to Riley to her time with Joel, where she is cursing more, she talks back, she's a bit more witty, she's got more of an edge to her, and it's because she's seen some things. As she tells Joel in episode 6, I've lost people too. So that was interesting that that Ellie was at this point where she could have gone either way. She could have been an officer of FEDRA and benefits, healthcare, dental, all that good stuff, right?
Now Bethany's going to be the officer.
Now Bethany, yeah, that motherfucker. They better bring her back in future seasons, Big boss type of shit.
She's the big bad of season 2.
But that's that's enticing, the idea of having that sort of stability. All you have to do is follow orders. And he was almost acting like a father figure in that scene, the Captain Kwong. An interesting little wrinkle there to the differences or the way that FEDRA and both the Fireflies try and recruit. But I think you did kind of nail it there in the beginning, saying that Riley, there's always an element of manipulation. And I think Ellie was being manipulated by that FEDRA officer as well. It's like, oh, it's a great job, but you have to hang people. And,
no, he seemed nice. He seemed like a pleasant guy. But then you realize he's like, I'm not going to send you to the hole again. Like, this 15-year-old girl getting sent to the hole.
What's the hole?
I think it's like fucking...
No, it's probably solitary, right?
Yeah, solitary. Children. It's like, all right, I'm not going to send you to the hole for the 4th time. I'm like, oh, he's not that bad. He's a nice FEDRA man.
He's one of the good ones. Ellie did rock that girl's shit. Dropped her.
She's being an asshole.
Yeah, them dancing on the table to Etta James. I've actually been... Spotify recommended me a couple of her songs lately, so I've been bumping her recently.
Oh, wow.
And then the show inspired me to go back and bump some Hank Williams, so some good tunes that they've been incorporating. Dude, I don't know what it is, but those masks, especially that clown mask, so scary. Even when I know it's not a bad person wearing it. It's just fucking scary, dude.
The wolf mask is pretty cool. Well, real lifelike.
Right, yeah, no, she should have kept that. Like, Wolf Girl.
Yeah.
But normally, see, that's another cliche, right? Characters, nobody fucking dances like that.
I like awkward dances.
Yeah, awkward dances, fine, right? Yeah, the music, they can hear it, but then it just becomes the soundtrack that everybody can hear, and then the zombie come and crashes the party. But that was actually one of my favorite encounters of the season so far, and that's what I've been clamoring for. It's those smaller encounters with the zombie, right, where he's just there and he's wrecking shit, he's tossing things, and they're struggling so hard to kill him, and they successfully do, but they both get bitten. But that was to me a great action moment. So written by Neil Druckmann, I think the episodes that he's been involved in have had those better, smaller action scenes. So that was definitely one of the better ones. And I thought that the vibes of the episode, even though all the lights were on and the vibes are happy, the atmosphere is still post-apocalyptic, so you never know what's going to go down. So I would have even liked maybe you don't even see the zombie in his little cocoon. He just shows up.
Yeah, that's
like, oh my God, zombie!
That's what I thought when they panned to it. Like, it definitely made it eerie and like a horror situation. But like, if you don't show that at all and just keep it in the back of your mind while they're having this good time, because once you see that, the surprise is taken out. Like, it's going to end poorly.
Especially the way they did it with the Halloween store, because I thought that was it. I was like, oh, the zombie's there, he's popping off, and then it's decoration.
Chekhov's infected.
That would be funny if he just never showed back up. It'd be some George R. R. Martin shit. Tease something and never resolves.
Well, now you know where she got her little pun book that you hate so much. You can blame Riley for that.
Well, the first pun was good. The second two were awful. Even Riley was like, the screenshot one, they didn't know what it was.
Volume 2, not as good as Volume 1.
Oh, yeah, of course. The sequel's never as good. Right, yeah, she got the pun book. And even when she's reading the comic books, right, we see where, Ellie's at heart, she is a nerd. So she's got an affinity for storytelling, for video games. So one of us. And even the back and forth when they share that first kiss, when they take off the masks, and Ellie goes in for it, being brave. And she says, sorry. Riley says, for what? And they both do that innocent giggle. So cute. It's the best way to write it. It reminded me of the Homecoming, the Spider-Man movies, where the romance was so awkward and there was teasing, but there was a real love there that they didn't know how to fully express. But it's little peck on the lips like that, you know. I thought that was very well written.
Yeah, I wonder how, and we'll see next week, where placement is going to come into, I guess, just the pacing of the season as a whole. I don't think it's cut momentum, because I do like the way they kind of balance that with Joel and Ellie trying to save him. I think it related and made sense in where it was put in the context of the season as a whole.
Right, yeah, and I think it's because it's focusing on one of the two main characters, and it's giving us this new context about what she dealt with before this story, and it is important for her character arc and her character decisions and her relationship with Joel specifically, because maybe if they didn't shine a light on this, we don't know why she goes back. I mean, we can pick up that she cares about Joel. She doesn't seem like that cold of a person. But the title of the episode left behind the idea of Riley leaving to join the Fireflies and then wanting to stay. So it all builds towards that moment of Ellie's decision to hang back and protect Joel. So I don't think it's a momentum killer whatsoever. I actually think some of the momentum killers in season 1 have been episodes where the story is moving forward.
Right.
And I don't know if this is my second favorite episode of the season, but episode 3 is definitely my favorite. And I thought that this accomplished something similar to episode 3, where it's developing your themes, it's important for the characters, it's not moving the narrative forward, but that doesn't matter so much right here, because it's going to go a long way in future episodes and hopefully future seasons. So
yeah, but I think placement, like episode 3, it establishes rather than reinforce, where I think this episode reinforces what we already know about Ellie rather than establish anything new, even though giving that insight does help paint the picture a little better. But yeah, I think it was just as an episode, it worked for me.
Yeah, emotionally, we already sort of got that with Ellie. I agree with that. I guess the only thing that it's giving us that's new is just new characters.
Right.
So you could argue that because Riley's time in the episode is so brief that she could be anybody. You know, all you needed was that line in episode 6 of "I've lost people too," and
right.
we're gonna take her for her word. You know, she's one of these master manipulators where she's just lying about losing people.
I don't believe you.
Just a sociopath. Right, yeah. Joel's like, "Where's your proof? You have a death certificate?" So, but at the end of the day, if you're going to make an episode like this, it's got to be good, because it is a risk, and that's why we complimented them with episode 3. It's a risk, especially to do that so early. You can get away with it, I guess, when it's episode 7, goes to your point about placement, but we will see after these next 2 episodes how they pan out.
Yeah, 2 left. We're getting down to it.
I know, dude. This season has gone so quick, right?
Yeah, and it's weird, because it also feels like I've been watching every Sunday for the past, I guess 2 months it has been. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're close to it, right?
But I think we're at the point now where up until now, I think we've both been really enjoying, and so have a lot of people. But yeah, these last 2 episodes are probably your most important in terms of wrapping it up and trying to, present just a really good season of television.
All right, guys, that does it for our episode 7 review of The Last of Us. We will be back next week for episode 8. Looking forward to that. And we've actually decided to extend our Last of Us giveaway. So we gave away 2 copies of The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5, and we're getting ready to give away 2 more. So all you have to do is follow us on social media at NerdSoup on Twitter and on Instagram, and be on the lookout for our TLU giveaway.
Wow, that was probably our best review yet. Hey guys, Aaron the Nerd Soup Monkey here with a brief shameless plug before we end the video. Do you ever feel like you don't have an adequate amount of nerd soup in your life? Like you're going to bed hungry and yearning for the nonsensical yet entertaining nutrients our podcasts provide? Well, we've come up with the perfect solution. The Nerd Soup Fan Question Podcast, exclusively available to our Patreon supporters. You can sign up now by visiting patreon.com/nerdsoup, and for the price of only $1 per month, you'll receive exclusive access to our weekly podcast, where we answer your questions that don't make it to the main show. And while you're there, you can check out the other rewards we offer to our patrons, like stickers, mugs, t-shirts, behind-the-scenes footage, and appearing in the credits at the end of our videos. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Roll the names of the nerds who make Nerd Soup possible. The reason why the crypto crash didn't send our lives spiraling down a black hole of no return. Alright, I'll stop talking so you can listen to this jazzy-ass music while checking if Beau spelt your name wrong in the credits.